Hello there, everybody. This is Krista, and welcome back to the Krista Chronicles. And today, no, not today, a span of a few days, you'll be watching it in one. Well, watch it in as many sittings as you want. I'm not gonna know. Uh, we're doing a little new practice share, which I'm so excited about. So, this new practice, I want to show you all because it's been really amazing so far. Well, it's just I've done one day of it, and it's something that I want to. You know when like you try something out and you're like, yes, like I'm really gonna enjoy doing this for a little bit. So it sort of is a build off of another practice I was doing that just involved pulling cards well out in my garden, since I had this new sitting space this year that I love. And so it really was a thing of like after work I would come, and this would kind of just be my like transition back to being home. I was pulling cards from either the Fairies Oracle or the Divine Ephemera Oracle, which I really enjoyed doing. But that is 4 days of the week. And so there was always 3 days, because we work from home on Mondays, so I don't need that transition. 3 days where it just wasn't in the routine. And so I've been thinking that I kind of wanted to switch it up a little bit, where it was sort of, and I don't really know how to explain it, where I think because that was the idea of the practice, that those two decks kind of slotted in that way for me, where they feel like an after work pull. Because they're absolutely not. They could be used in many other ways. But when I'm switching up a practice, it's just helpful for me to really switch up what I'm using. And right on cue with having that thought, I received the loveliest message from Amy T. Wan, who is the creator of the deck for Wonder Walking. So this beautiful deck is one that was out of print for quite some time, but is back in print now. And it's just... That's my neighbor's dog, so sorry. And my other neighbor's doing yard work. You know how it is. This is a deck that it's been on my list for quite some time. So when Amy reached out to me asking if I would be interested in a copy to review and share my thoughts of, I was like, yeah. Are my dreams coming true? Yes, absolutely. So excited. So while I was waiting for the arrival, I was kind of just thinking about, okay, you know when it's one of those decks where it's like, you just know, I knew from what I saw and what I'd heard about it that it was just going to be unique in my collection, and like it was gonna have such a specific purpose. You know what I mean? And it comes with this, or you can get this beautiful Explorer's Journal, which so far highly recommend as the duo here. I've loved that. So anyway, I'm kind of babbling right now. The practice is that I think it's maybe just that this deck, it feels right to pull it at any time of day for me. So far, again, this is day 2 we're doing this, but just from my initial viewing of it. And so usually when I get decks in for review, I like to do a walkthrough and give my first impressions, but something about this felt different. And when I was looking at it immediately, I was like, oh yes, this is what we're gonna do with it. So my idea right now is I'm gonna pull a card every day outside in my garden, and from that pull, I've got my journal still that I'm using, and then I kind of want to walk around my yard, walk around my garden, and see where this applies in nature. Because I was doing that with the Divine Ephemera and the Fairies Oracle, which really worked, especially with the Divine Ephemera. It was really cool to think about the stories of the deities in the cards and think about like, okay, how am I experiencing some level of that like out here, and then how does what's happening in my garden reflect on the rest of my life? Very cool. But this is a deck where I feel like it's really built for that. It's all based around the idea of wonder walking, so going on walks and just really paying attention to what's going on around you, what do you see? It feels like this thing of like finding magic in everything, which I'm such a fan of. I'm such a fan of. And so that idea, I feel like it's built to do a practice like this. You know what I mean? So even though I'm not going on walks, I'm doing loops around my house, around my yard. But so far yesterday, it was really cool. So I'm gonna show the card I pulled yesterday, and then I will pull my card for today. And I was thinking that at least maybe for a few days, we could do this practice together on video, so that way, I don't know, you could get a feel for how this is working. We could try it out together. I thought that would be fun. So let me get out the card from yesterday. So here is the beautiful card that I pulled yesterday. I pulled the Discomfort card, and the book, the entry that Amy writes with this was just really such an interesting way to view discomfort. It really talked a lot about how the feeling of discomfort can just be telling of so many different underlying emotions, and the gist of it was basically to like really pay attention to what's causing you discomfort, and then really think about why. And then to think about of like, well, okay, do I want this discomfort to be holding me back in the way that it is right now? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes it's like, oh wait, no, I don't have a reason to fear this right now, or I don't know. Not necessarily fear it, but let it be taking hold the way it is. And I thought that was such an interesting idea of viewing discomfort as this sort of secondary thing. You know what I mean? And so, while I was walking around my garden, the discomfort I have been caused lately is the demolition caused by a group of baby groundhogs. Gus, my resident groundhog, had babies this year, and they really chewed some stuff up. Namely, though, these are the remnants of my poppies. I don't know if they showed up in one of my monthly wrap-ups. Ignore the white spot there. That's cat litter. That's how crazy I went to try and just repel them. Cat litter, used cat litter, because I didn't want to hurt them, of course. They were just babies. But if you saw maybe on my Instagram or in one of my monthly wrap-ups, they were these big green plants. And they got decimated by those baby groundhogs. And that really did cause a lot of discomfort for me, because those poppies were ones that I used the winter sowing method on. So if you're unfamiliar, basically it's growing seeds in jugs, seeds that usually benefit from cold stratification. So that was a process I started in January or February. So I've been growing these plants since then, because, I mean, you know, not active work, because that's the whole point of winter sowing, is that it's not all of this active work behind it. But I was laying the foundation for those plants months ago. And so it really caused this discomfort of, one, just the disappointment that I might not see poppies this year, but two, what it really brought up for me was this discomfort around realizing that I'm not always going to have control. And that is definitely a big theme for me just in life, of discomfort around feeling like I don't have control over certain things, especially when they're disappointing things. And so, you know, I could do the best I could of trying to repel them, because I certainly was not going to hurt them. Again, like, you know, they're native to my area. This is their home. You know, I'm trying to set up this controlled garden in their space. They shouldn't differentiate between, you know, what they can eat and what they can't, other than like some things are just poisonous for them. And so it's like, I can understand that on a logical level, but on a feelings level, it was just kind of like this, I got this real sadness over just the discomfort around feeling so out of control of that, of these poppy plants got really eaten up, and there just wasn't that much I could do about it. And that was a really interesting thing to think about yesterday, of like, where else does this come up? Because I think it's, of course it's valid to feel that discomfort and sadness in the moment, but now that I am out of that situation, the groundhogs, they've moved on. I am assuming to live their adult lives. I don't know. I've just not seen them in days, and they were here very, they had their den under our burrow right near here, so I'm guessing they moved on. I haven't seen them. And so now that I'm on the other side of that, it's this thing of like, okay, we are in like the very beginning of that height of growing season. The plants, they look sad right now, but they're not dead. They could grow back. And if they don't, I've got so many other beautiful flowers. Like, it'll be okay. I will try again next year and know to keep an eye out for that. Do you hear that cheeping? Those are my baby house wrens. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So anyway, that was my card from yesterday. Why don't we pull a card for today and see what we get? This is so funny, the card I just pulled after what I just said, but today I got the Listen card, which talks about kind of having an inner dialogue, a need for stillness and quiet, and just, as it suggests, listening. And I really liked, part of the entry was talking about how some days it just feels like through listening you're more open to just magical things. And to me, again, just with the whole theme of the deck, it feels like listening for those things that maybe don't always seem magical if you're not looking at it the right way. For me, do you hear all these bird sounds? I love that there's a bird in this too. That is definitely the magic. And I'm hoping if we are still, I think I got another clip of it too. So if not right now, I'll just put that clip in. But I have house wrens in this birdhouse, and they're hatched. So right now, both the mom and dad are taking turns going back and forth. Ooh, bright sun. Finding them food, but this is my favorite part when they're in the nest, because when one of them comes back with food, it's like you just hear all this loud cheeping, and it's so cute. I think I got another video of it, so again, usually they're not very fearful of me when I'm sitting at this distance, so hopefully I'm sure I'm not getting in the way of that. That is just magical. So, today's card is Listen. Alright, it's a new day, so a new card. And today, we've got Discernment. Now, what I got from the entry on this card is being discerning about how we take in certain experiences. So, let's travel over to where I see this in my garden. And that is another baby groundhog crime, we'll say, because here is a beautiful marigold that got very, very nibblous strawberry blonde. I was so excited about these this year. And when this first got eaten, I found myself continually coming over to this spot and just feeling so sad about my plant that got all its buds eaten off. But where I feel discernment comes in is I am currently doing all I can do for this plant. I've got it getting plenty of water. I might give it some extra fertilizer, and it will grow. But there is nothing else I can do for that plant right now. So why wouldn't I instead after taking care of this plant, spend time over here with another strawberry blonde marigold that didn't get chewed and is doing so beautifully. And so that's where the discernment piece comes up. It's not about avoiding those negative experiences. It's doing what you can to take care of it, but not dwelling when there is nothing more you can do, at least in a case like this. And this card was so perfect today because I found myself just kind of really sitting today and just really getting stuck in just things that were just kind of making me feel sad. But when it comes down to it, there was nothing more. I've done what I can about those things. So, instead of continuing to sit and dwell, I can turn my attention to some more joyful things. Like pulling my card for the day. I'm currently also learning how to do a Rubik's Cube, or I've got a book I'm really like reading. You know, I can still, I guess it's the thing of, you know, I've taken care of what I possibly can. And so I can now discern what I decide to take in, and I can choose to make that joyful in this moment. So that's what I got from today with discernment. Alrighty, so today's card is edges. How beautiful is that? Do you hear the baby birds? Oh my gosh, they're so cute. House wrens. I don't know if I said that before. Anyways, let's think about edges here. So in the book, it talked about just examining, you know, if you were on a wonder walk, bring the card, to examine where you see edges and boundaries and thinking about kind of what these mean. And so what came to mind for me in my nature existence in my yard, as we're doing, is the many things. But for starters, the edge I created this year around my garden. Just trenching and using, I live in an area with a lot of rocks. So, believe it or not, even these big ones, even something like that, completely dug up from the ground. It's so rocky here. But very convenient to use for stone borders, because I've never had to buy a rock, nor shall I ever, probably. So anyway, I created this year. So here is an edge between, I mean over here we've got between lawn and garden. And so that's what the stone is really for. Breaking up that edge between lawn and garden. And for that, you know, it just creates this thing of, okay, this is where lawn stops, garden starts. It helps it so the grass doesn't grow over into the garden because I'm trying to grow some other things. But another edge I've taken notice to is where, you know, yard, garden, I'm calling it like cultivated nature stops, and what do we want to call it? More, I guess we can use, I'm going to use it in air quotes, wild nature begins. So as you can see, just by clearing away, that is bittersweet, very invasive. So if I touch anything here, it's that, because it's very invasive, trying to get rid of it, horrendous. But then a lot of this is really a lot of native plants. And so our land, so to speak, actually goes quite far back that way. I would say, I don't know, you take from the house to here and it probably goes back another 2/3 of just trees and, you know, shrubs, things of that sort. And so there's clearly quite an edge here where just kind of grass, things I can mow, stops and the wildness begins. All of this, I can't wait. This is a sidebar. This is all jewel weed, which gets this beautiful like neon orange flower. I've got tons of it this year, and it's just the most beautiful thing. We've got a lot of ferns and cherry trees and grapevines. It's magical. And so what this kind of brought to mind, or what I've been thinking about, is how it feels like this thing of kind of where my space ends and wildlife space begins, and how, you know, I've created these edges. These are man-made edges. They mean something to me. They mean something to other people. But the other creatures existing around me, these edges either just mean something completely different. Like this edge, for example, I'm convinced means to those little groundhogs, oh my gosh, like free plate of snacks, easy access, fantastic. So it either means something completely different to these other creatures, or it's just meaningless in general. I think that's an interesting thing to think about, especially like, I feel like I've been dwelling on the groundhog thing. That was the big occurrence of as of late. But that was an interesting thing to think about, of like, how mad can I really be? I can be sad about my plants. I can't be mad at them. You know, this is their space. I'm kind of the one existing in it. And so it was interesting to think about too, because I'm looking at this space and like, the journal prompts you a bit to be like, how do you feel when you're at that edge? And to me, it feels very, I feel a lot of discomfort and uneasiness at the thought of stepping into that. And part of it absolutely is, you know, a fear of the unknown, of the unexpected, because as you know, the plants are very high. You don't really know what you're going to find there. But it's also this feeling of intrusion, of like, when I come into my yard and there's animals that are not comfortable being around humans, that's where they run. You know, if I'm out here, they're running that way because they know I won't go there. And it feels like a thing of, you know, like, who am I to take that space away from them? That's their space. So, yeah, very interesting thing to think about. I don't know, I feel like that could just, you could see that in so many different areas of life, that kind of lesson. Very interesting. So, that's today's card. Edges. Alrighty, time for our next card, but I had to show off first. Look at this blue, my god. This is my Princess Anne rose. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I'm so pleased with my roses. Anyways, today's card I pulled is Study. And so what this card talks all about is sort of just like learning more about the environment around us. What are we drawn to learn more about? And instantly, I hardly even made it through the passage and I was like, I know what this card is pointing out to me. And it is my love for my Merlin bird ID app. So if you haven't seen this before, it is so cool. This is through Cornell Ornithology, and how it works, you can hear the birds around me. You click the sound and it listens for birds and tells you which bird is chirping around you. Let's see if we can get some more. Isn't that neat? And so this has been my favorite app for learning more about birds and the birds that are in my yard and nesting here. It's been so much fun. I love, like, I could sit here for so long and just watch this app. So when I pulled the study card and it talked about just learning more about the natural environment, this is exactly what I thought of. And the cool thing is that You then can click on a singular bird, listen to their songs and calls to make sure that's, the correct bird you're hearing. When you click "This is my bird," it gives data to Cornell Ornithology to track bird migration patterns, bird habitat patterns, see if anything has changed. So that is my study card, and I think that's the last card we're gonna look at for this video, because I'm really excited to show you all this new practice with the deck for wonder walking. I've been loving this, so I hope you enjoyed this little series. I can't wait. I'm gonna continue doing this because I'm just getting so much out of it. I love it so much. But other than that, I hope you're all having a wonderful day so far, and I'll see you again very soon.